Wait till the final horn.
That's one of the latest ones I've ever done.
Man.
Woo!
16-point fourth quarter for number 30. Golden State with a hard-earned win.
It's time for Warriors Wrap-Up. We'll bring you into the locker room and hear from Coach Kerr and the players. Highlights from the game. Warriors Wrap-Up starts now.
was crisp down the stretch. But as opposed to 5 turnovers in the first about 9 minutes of that third quarter, the Warriors turned the ball over just once in the final 15 minutes of that basketball game. And I think that, look, a number you'd like to, of course, be below 10, but for a Warriors team that right now is, I think, in the bottom 5 as far as turnovers and turnover rate is concerned, this is a team that cannot nitpick how many times they give the ball up. So 14, I thought, was a good number there, though it led to 24 points for Brooklyn. I thought that's how the Nets kind of stayed in the game in the first half, and why instead of an 18-point lead, it might not have ballooned to a 24, 25-point lead for Golden State. Moses Moody didn't provide much impact tonight, but that's, I think, kind of what you're going to get sometimes from young guys. And I think it also points to Steve Kerr knowing when to push those buttons with his young players. And I think because Steve Kerr, in my opinion, has leaned a little bit more, or has been forced to lean more into the youth movement, so to speak, with the Warriors, he's gotten a better feel now from having trusted those guys of when they have it going and when they don't. And I think a situation like tonight, Kuminga probably could have played a little bit more than 21 minutes. He was a +4, 10 points. I thought he provided some impact that didn't necessarily show up in the box score. But, Kerr is willing to obviously lean into Podziemski. And he also knew when to kind of get away or go away from Moses Moody tonight. So, as far as Brooklyn is concerned, you look at this second half, and to me, as far as the post-game thoughts, kind of the hierarchy of what I took away from this game is Stephen Curry is still obviously incredible, and the Warriors need him to be great every single night for Golden State to have a chance to win. That's just where they're at. And he has shouldered the load in more than, I'm sure, ways that we can see on the court through the first quarter of the season. He's got 3,500 threes for his career. Of course, he's the all-time leader there, but he hit 6 of 9 from distance. And he was also efficient. 14 of 22, 6 of 8 from 3 for 37 points. Curry also quietly had 3 blocks tonight. I know that's the 1 assist. It might be a number that jumps out there. But Steph was playing some defense against Brooklyn. He was obviously given to whoever was in front of him. And then the other guy, Klay Thompson, who's been, much maligned and understandably so early on this year. You look at the first now 11 games of the year, and Klay Thompson was just could not hit water if he fell out of a boat, or at least that's the way that it felt. But you look at now quietly, the last 12 games, Klay Thompson is shooting above 40% from three-point range. Now, the overall field goal percentage is probably not where you want it to be. He was 7 of 19 tonight. I thought he, along with Wiggins, had a lot of open looks at the cup. And honestly, the Warriors as an entire team, Kevon Looney was probably the poster boy for this, had some open looks at the rim and just could not quite finish at the cup. And so I think if that potentially turns around, that'll help Klay. But where I am looking for Klay Thompson to help, because I think at the age that he is, with the injuries that he's suffered, this guy has to be a knockdown shooter for the Warriors. And they may need him to be a consistent three-point threat more than ever before, because this is a team right now that is pretty devoid of shooting. And that's sort of the difference to me. Like when we're having the conversations about who needs to go to the bench or who needs to take a step back as far as the rotation, when Klay wasn't playing well, he got benched against Phoenix, and that is certainly understandable. I completely agreed with it. But in a league that emphasizes three-point shooting, and you saw it from Brooklyn tonight, they were pretty porous in the first half from three-point range, but this is a team that is 4th overall in the NBA in three-point makes. You knew that wave was going to come, and it came in the form of 6 threes in the third quarter. They ended up with 17. You need three-point shooters, and the Warriors right now, I think Podziemski has been emerging as a consistent three-point threat, but that wasn't something that was necessarily expected. So outside of Curry, Klay has to be that second three-point threat. And so I was happy to see him be able to knock down some clutch baskets from distance, especially in the fourth quarter when they started throwing doubles and all kinds of traps at Curry. The ball found Klay Thompson open, and I thought he was able to hit enough, of course, for the Warriors to win this game. But for also the Nets, this is another part of it too. If Brooklyn or teams in the future have to essentially concern themselves with what Clay or potentially Podziemski is doing from three-point range, then you are not afforded the ability to double Curry as much as we've seen some teams try to do. Now, I think Brooklyn had to go to it tonight because he was kicking their ass, Curry was. But if Clay is finding himself, and I think he has over the last two, I think that benching was a wake-up call, the way that you hope the starting lineup demotion for Andrew Wiggins can be a wake-up call, well, then we have to then you might have something cooking as far as the Warriors are concerned and their shooting. So 20 points in the last 20 points scored, by the way, by the Splash Brothers tonight. They combined for 61 points. The hierarchy goes Curry 37, Thompson 24, Podziemski 19, and then some ancillary scores, a total of, 6 guys tonight with double digits. I thought it was an all-around effort for a Warriors team that really needed a win badly, coming off 3 straight road losses, all of which I believe, in fact, they had double-digit leads. And that's kind of my overarching question here on Warriors Wrap-Up with Evan Giddings on 95.7 The Game is, are you encouraged by the win tonight? Or are you in a position where the Warriors, look, they still got a big hole to dig themselves out of here. I mean, they're still 3 games below 500. This isn't a win that in my mind is something that you look at and say, all right, they've turned the corner. This is a different basketball team. But they're not in a position, in my opinion, in which they can really look at games and say, oh, well, we didn't like this, we didn't like that. No, you got to take the W's when they can come, because against a team tomorrow night in Portland in which you got a quick turnaround, it's a Trailblazers team you should probably be able to beat. This is a chance for the Warriors to get back to 500, the road to 500 as we speak, and find themselves in a position to eventually turn the corner. Now, the Warriors, again, this is their first of 13 games. They got 11 of which, now 10 more at home. So you got a chance in front of your Chase Center crowd, which, by the way, I think helped and gave them a little bit of juice. Now you're 6-6, you're 500 at home. You got a chance to make up some ground here, even without a player in which I believe has been their second best in Draymond Green. However you slice it, I think he's been very impactful when he's been on the court. The Warriors now have a chance, I think, to dig themselves out of this hole if they can consistently find ways to piece these wins together. Now, that may not sound like a championship team to you, but where I'm at is this. This is not currently a title team, but it's a team that still has some pieces that I think if reformed, if retooled, if kind of puzzled around, you got 10 to 15 games to prove that you deserve to be in a conversation, because to this point through 25 games, the Warriors have been a sub-500 basketball team, and I think that they're better than that. And so I think this was a good step tonight, but I'm curious if people are encouraged or not by the win. 888-957-9570 is the number. I also do want to get, before we hit a break real fast, I do want to get to our hardest worker of the game, and in my mind, it's really quite simple for multiple reasons. It's Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry was the hardest worker of the game, not just because he had 37 points and 16 of them he scored in the fourth quarter, but because he was fighting through double teams, he was taking on different defenders, and still was able to will this Warriors basketball team to a win. So to me, Stephen Curry is the hardest worker of the game, brought to you by Alameda County Sheriff's Office, who works hard to serve the community. If you're looking for a career in law enforcement, learn more about job opportunities at joinacso.com. Evan Giddings with you on Warriors Wrap-Up. Going to take a quick break and come back with more. Again, we're all presented by Xfinity, the Xfinity 10G network, the best way to stream live sports. We got your extending the three-point line highlight on the other side, along with some questions that I have about what the Warriors are moving forward and how they can continue this. So rack them up. 888-957-9570 is the number if you want to call into the show. Also, the number for the Comcast Business text line. I see you out there on YouTube. We appreciate you tuning in here on 95.7 The Game. My name is Evan Giddings, and we'll be back right after this.
Oh, this cold.
Honey?
Honey?
Honey, you need DayQuil Severe Honey.
DayQuil Severe Honey gives you powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a honeylicious taste, because life doesn't stop for a cold.
Okay.
VMC FM and HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube. Powered by First NorCal Credit Union.
Neither team a foul to give. O'Neal looks to the corner, throws up top to Bridges. Goes to work on Kuminga, drives right by him. Layup is up and no good. Rebound, Podziemski. Podziemski out of the pack, takes it to midcourt. Hand off Curry. Steps around, drives in, gets a layup, and finger rolls it in with 17.3 to go. Warriors lead 124-120.
Now back to Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game.
This is Warriors Wrap-Up. My name is Evan Giddings, and we are presented by Xfinity as the Warriors get back into the win column. A much-needed victory here at Chase Center. Final score 124-120 as they hold off the Brooklyn Nets. The Warriors led by as many as 18 in the first half. Then the Nets took a lead into that fourth quarter, and then the Warriors found a way to battle back, and it was primarily because of Stephen Curry, along with, I think, Klay Thompson belongs in that as well, because Curry had 37 points, 16 of which in the fourth quarter after he was shut out in the fourth quarter against the Clippers on Thursday night. But Klay Thompson hit a couple of big threes down the stretch of that fourth. He ends up with 24 points as the Splash Brothers combined for 61. They combine also for the final 20 points scored by the Warriors in that basketball game, as the Nets, as so many other opponents have, would just not go away. I mean, you look at Cam Thomas, who scored 41 points for Brooklyn. Spencer Dinwiddie had 14 assists tonight. I mean, Nick Claxton was all over the glass, 19 and 12 with 5 offensive rebounds. He had 5 block shots. Every single member of the starting 5 for the Brooklyn Nets was in double digits, and they played heavy minutes tonight. Mikal Bridges played 42 minutes, didn't have his best game, but saved his best for the second half, in which he had 12 second-half points. And so it took just about everything for the Warriors to overcome a Brooklyn Nets team that just took its fourth loss in its last 12 games. So they've been playing pretty good basketball. The Warriors, of course, have not been playing great basketball, but for the first time in their last now 6 games, the Warriors are able to effectively hold a double-digit lead. I mean, I know they didn't hold it the entire way, but they got a win in which a game in which they led by double digits. So the question I have at 888-957-9570 is this. Is that an encouraging victory for the Golden State Warriors, or was it kind of much of the same? I mean, I'm in a position to where this is what I was encouraged by. Of course, the fact that Curry is able to just put this team on his back and carry them the way that he has carried them for the majority of not just this season, but for his entire career. I'm encouraged by the fact that Klay Thompson is quietly righting the ship. Now, he's 44 for his last 103 across 12 games, but since he was benched down the stretch of the Phoenix game 2 games ago, he has scored 54 points and has become the secondary scorer that I believe the Warriors need if they're to have any chance to make some noise this season. I was encouraged by the fact that Brandon Podziemski looks like the best Warriors rookie I've seen, most impactful Warriors rookie that I've seen since Draymond Green, and there have been a few good ones, but as far as winning is concerned, that is what I have not seen from a first-year player since really 2012, and Brandon Podziemski has been that guy for them. So I was also encouraged by the fact that Steve Kerr, though there were some things throughout the game I kind of batted my eyes at, I thought he pressed the right buttons down the stretch of that game, and he didn't just lean all the way into the OGs or the veterans. He kind of picked and chose his spots with his young guys, and specifically Kuminga, to come in and force or at least alter Mikal Bridges' game-time potential shot with 30 seconds left. I thought that was a big spot for Kuminga, and I thought Kerr did the right job by trusting him in a one-on-one perimeter defending position. So 888-9570 is the number. Evan Giddings with you on Warriors Wrap-Up after a 124-120 victory for Golden State. Let's get out to Mark in Millbrae. Bring him on here. And Mark, what's going on, man? What'd you think of the game tonight? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up. How are you?
What's up, man? To me, I like the rotational moves in the lineup by Kerr. I think Wiggins really struggling right now. I think hopefully he can finally get his head together and be more impactful now coming off the bench there. Saric, I thought, was pretty impressive. Podziemski has been excellent. I love that pick, as you mentioned just now. I love what this kid's doing, man. I don't know much about him. I know he played at Santa Clara, but this kid has been really impressive so far. And Kuminga has really got to elevate his game. I think this is critical for Kuminga to show, with Draymond out now, he's got to show he can be part of this a starter now, and maybe even take Draymond's place there in the starting lineup at times whenever he comes back. So I hope Kuminga takes this period of time now and show that Kerr can't mess with him, because he really has no choice to yo-yo him in and out of the lineup. And Kuminga's got to really thrive right now. And what can you say about Curry? The guy is just incredible, man. He hasn't really dropped off to play like he's playing at this point in his career. I just hope that everybody outside of Curry really elevates their game, because I really do think it's going to be struggle game to game, regardless of, they can be up 15, 20 points, even against average teams. And Nets are, kind of they're kind of an average team. And even against teams like Portland, I just hope the Warriors at this point can really right their ship and get on a winning streak here against inferior competition, even though they really can't overlook any team. I don't care who it is. They got Portland a couple times. I know the schedule gets easier, but at this point in time, how do you think they approach it going forward now? This stretch here without Draymond against these teams, can they really actually get it on a winning streak, or are they going to revert back to winning a game or two and then losing to awful teams? Thanks for the time.
Appreciate that, Mark. No, I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. I mean, again, I think everyone has been encouraged by Brandon Podziemski, and I think they've been discouraged by the fact that the Warriors I know they won tonight, but they did blow another pretty sizable lead. It was at one point 18 in the first half. They led by as many as 16 at the half, and then it pretty much all went downhill from there. So, I think, look, as far as the upcoming games are concerned, I mean, the Warriors, obviously, they get Portland tomorrow night, and then they're going to come home for 3 in a row next week. Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, you get Boston, and then on Friday, the return of Jordan Poole on Act. And I think Bob Myers is going to be on the pregame for that show, so that should be one that everyone has circled. Maybe not for all the star power, but mainly for all the storylines. And then, of course, next Saturday, you get the back-to-back with Portland again. So there's some very winnable games coming up for the Warriors. Boston's going to be a televised game on TNT. So, I think the Celtics are one that you probably don't expect to win. But that's why, again, this Brooklyn game is important, because you fall behind 5 games below 500, then you're looking at your next 7, and you pretty much got to win, 5. You got to go 5-2. Just to be in a position before the end of the new year to get to close to 500, and now you at least give yourself a chance, right? If you are able to win 3 of your next 4, well, then you're a game below 500, looking at 3 more before the end of the new year, as opposed to looking up. So, that's kind of the schedule game that the Warriors got to play right now. And again, they just need W's at this point. And that's what I was impressed about tonight, that the fact that the Warriors were able to get that done. So, I think as far as the Kuminga aspect of this, that to me is an interesting part, because one thing that I wondered when Draymond was suspended indefinitely was, number one, who's going to, step up for him and defensively. How are they going to overcome that? Because I think Draymond being out, in addition to having GP2 out, means you're down 2 of your 3 or 4 best defensive players, whichever way you slice it. Kuminga is the natural fit, I think, for me at the 4 to slide in. But this is where over the next, I would say 10 games, because I don't think Draymond's going to be back before the end of this year, of 2023, I should say, the new year. But does Jonathan Kuminga make enough of a third-year leap for you to be okay, potentially, moving forward with not needing to rely on Draymond as much, or maybe even in the future being willing to move off of him and being okay with the next iteration of what this Warriors franchise is going to be? Now, I don't think Kuminga can answer that question wholly. We're not going to know if he's, a championship player, or, if he's going to be a perennial all-star or all-defense. I don't think we're going to learn that over 10 games. But you can get an idea of which way Kuminga is trending in not only a pivotal year because it's year 3, but also you're going to have to make a decision about whether you want to extend Kuminga beyond the end of next season. And if it doesn't look like that right now, he is a guy that is progressing or developing in the right direction, which he's shown no sign of that yet. But what I'm saying is, if he doesn't show that across these games in which he's going to get more burn, then maybe you have some tough choices to make with JK. I think that over the next 10 to 15 without Draymond, and if Steve Kerr can give Kuminga the rope that he has deserved so far from his play this year, then I think the tough questions are going to surround number 23. They're going to surround Draymond Green more than they are Jonathan Kuminga. So I appreciate the call. Let's get back out there. 888-957-9570 is the number. Evan Giddings with you on Warriors Wrap-Up. Let's go out to Fremont and grab Rich. What's up, Rich? How you doing, man? What'd you take away from tonight's game?
Hey, man, thanks for taking my call. I think when I look at this tonight's game, you have to tip your hat to Steve Kerr because the rotation that he set up tonight, it was beautiful. It worked. Hey, let's keep it real. BKN was not soft, and they weren't soft when they came in. These guys have run 7 straight. So he laid that out there, let you know, hey, look, you know what? We know what we're dealing with. We know how we're going to be able to handle this. And he gets the W. And we know Steph being Steph. I still say somebody should tell Steph he's 35. he's playing like, hey, he's 26 years old. And I got to tip my hat to Podziemski. Oh, my goodness. What just an eloquent game by him tonight. Beautiful. And JK, hey, next man up. Did his job. Wait a minute, saw the job and stepped up. And so what do you have? You have a win, and you have a win whether the contributors they stepped up. And everybody's been hating on my man. My goodness, I can't believe it. But they've been hating on him. Look, when it really comes down to it, okay, my man hit threes when they needed to be hit. Look, he was there when he needed to be there. He had over 20 points tonight. And, hey, that's what you do when you're the next man up. So, to Klay Thompson, I'm tipping my hat to him. Nobody else is going to do that. He's going to say, well, you're struggling or whatever. No. Look, Klay's been there. He's done that. And so, hats off to him. Hats off to the Warriors. Great win. Thanks for your time, man. Thank you.
No, appreciate it, Rich. I'm with you. I think, look, if we are going to come down the road of Klay Thompson for the first, 12 to 13 games of this season because he was not playing very well, poor shot selection, didn't have it going, and the Warriors were suffering because of it, then at this point now, with the way that he's playing, you do have to give him his flowers. Like, it's a two-way street, so I'm 100% with you. Klay Thompson was a big reason why the Warriors won tonight. And this is kind of where I'm at. And just going through the YouTube comments, I appreciate you chiming in, from Nina, GL Gray. I hate that the Dubs can't hold the lead. I'm 100% there with you. My guy, Uncle Looney, I'm kind of with you. Any win is a good win without having Draymond. No grading in this situation. And also, they got to follow it up tomorrow. Kim Love is saying Wiggins is still a problem. I think he has less of a problem now because he is coming off of the bench and he's being asked to do less, or I should say the success of the Warriors are at this point is not as dependent on him with the amount of minutes that Kerr is giving him. And so that's why I'm with you, Rich, as far as Klay is concerned, as well as Steve Kerr, because there's a lot that we were criticizing them for. I don't know. I mean, even going back 4 or 5 games, the fact that, they still have lost 7 road games in a row, and that they hope to change tomorrow night against Portland. So that is a must-win game from that perspective to right that ship. But to get off a 3-game skid, I thought was extremely important tonight. And I thought that Steve Kerr did a great job mixing and matching and kind of puzzle piecing the final 5 minutes or so together, in which, of course, Curry takes over offensively, but then to go back to Podziemski with 3:23 left, to bring in Jonathan Kuminga with 26 seconds left, and trusting Wiggins enough, but not blindly trusting him from that perspective. I thought that was big from Steve Kerr. And so while we haven't seen it as quickly as we'd like, I do think we're starting to see some of the growth and because of the results of a lot of these blown leads and the Warriors being forced to look at themselves in the mirror, the head coach, the front office, and of course the players themselves, I do think that we're beginning to see that manifest a little bit more. Now, the question is whether that equates to victories, and that is still TBD, because this is a game that Brooklyn, I think, could have won tonight, and the Warriors would have been looking up again and saying, all right, this is a familiar story. We're up by 16 at the half, and immediately give the lead right back and then blow it down the stretch. But they didn't. So, I wonder if people are encouraged by that. I can't definitively say that the Warriors have turned a corner yet, because if they go and muck it up tomorrow night against Portland, then we're back to square zero. But if they win tonight and then they win tomorrow, and you're looking at a game against the Celtics, that's a tough game on Tuesday, but you can win against Washington Friday, you get Portland again on Saturday, then you begin to cook with a little something as you move back to 500, and that's where this team is at. As currently constructed, they are not a championship team, but until Draymond Green comes back, they have to hold serve, and maybe even if they're able to play above 500 basketball, that would be more encouraging heading into the new year. So, I think Podziemski has given people a lot of hope as a bright spot for the youth. I think Kuminga has been much more steady than his first two seasons. Moody was not great tonight, but the bench as a whole was productive, and I thought Chris Paul kind of quietly with the 11 assists that he played with tonight did a solid job at keeping that second unit as a floor unit. And what I mean by that is that unit is not one that I believe right now is going to hurt the Warriors when they have to go to the bench. In years past, that's been a big problem without Steph Curry. Chris Paul, while he might not have the explosiveness as far as scoring or playmaking that even he did a year ago, I think he gives much more steadiness to a team that, quite honestly, is in need of someone who can at least steer the ship. And Chris Paul can do that. So 888-957-9570 is the number. We got about 10-15 minutes left here on Warriors Wrap-Up with Evan Giddings. I do want to get to our extending the three-point line play, and there's a lot of them to choose from, but I think it's got to be number 30 as we go to our extending the three-point line, and it is brought to you by West Coast Men's Health. Here is Stephen Curry with one of his biggest baskets down the stretch.
Curry off a double screen. Retreats, gets Thomas as his defender. Steps to his right, takes the three. It's up and good! Curry answering right back. Little duel going on here at Chase Center.
Well, the Warriors are hunting Cam Thomas when they have the ball.
109-106 Warriors.
And that was Tim Roy along with Tim Tolbert on the call, 95.7 The Game, as they are for every single home game. Tim Roy, all 82, your home for Golden State Warriors basketball. Talking about the back and forth, it was Stephen Curry. But and this is part of it, too. Like, Brooklyn had a 40-point score tonight, and they lost. So while, obviously you don't want to see the Warriors blow a commanding lead, I do think we need to adjust our sights in some sense to what a 10-point lead actually means in the modern NBA, especially against a team like Brooklyn that's been filling it up lately. They'd won 7 of their last 10. They've been playing really good basketball, especially on the road. But I think that they ran out of gas a little bit, and the Warriors were playing with some rejuvenated energy because of... Obviously, they needed the victory, I think, a little more than the Nets did. But also, they were back home off of their 3-game roadie. So, the Warriors got to follow this thing up tomorrow night. That is an absolute must. The Golden State Warriors cannot lay an egg in Portland and have us try to take them seriously, I think, because... again, when you are 4 games below 500, now they're 3 games below 500, you cannot be a chooser. I mean, you're almost a beggar in the sense that they're looking for winnable games. And while they were slightly favored in this game tonight, I think this was a much more evenly played matchup. Of course, that was played out on the scoreboard. But with the trends of the Warriors versus the trend of Brooklyn, this was going to be a tough matchup. It was not one that I expected the Warriors to win. And they're not in a position in which they can expect to beat most of the teams in the NBA. That, in my opinion, does not apply to Portland, who did come into Chase Center and make it a close game. I think the Warriors won by 5 last Wednesday. But tomorrow night at the Moda, actually, I forget what it is now. I think it's the Moda Center up there in Portland. They got to win that basketball game, plain and simple. So I think if the Warriors are able to travel and maintain kind of a similar approach to which it's not as if they've been playing poor basketball for the full 48. I mean, this is a team that in first half of games, like if you just look at the first quarter, it's pretty much followed every script of the last 2.5 weeks. I mean, the starting unit comes out a little bit flat, but then as soon as the bench comes in, boom, immediate 10-5 run for the Warriors. They go up by 7 at the end of that half. They're 5 of 8 from 3. They were +5 on the glass, 5 offensive rebounds in the first quarter, and then a 15-2 bench advantage helps them get that lead. In the second quarter, Brandon Podziemski draws a couple of charges. By the way, has drawn 10 charges for the season. That is the 4th most in the entire association for a guy that wasn't even supposed to be on the roster, or at least the roster that was going to get minutes to begin this year. So second chance opportunities were early and often. Klay Thompson, by the way, got to the line 6 times in the first half. They had an 18-8 run over the final 437. They had stability from their starters. Podziemski was providing impact. Chris Paul was a plus 15 in the first half. So they had a lot to like. And then in the third quarter, it was Brooklyn that took advantage of 5 Warriors turnovers, which led to 8 points. Cam Thomas ends up with 31 points through 3 quarters, and the Nets started making threes. They hit 6 of them in that quarter, and the Warriors only were able to net 2. So I think that's how they got back into the game. And then their first lead came at 99-97 with 9:05 left since that first half, and it was like, oh my God, this is Groundhog Day again for the Warriors. But that's where, again, in such a fragile point in the season, I do think this is a good win for Golden State from the sense of that's a quality opponent that they beat. That's a team that is probably not going to be a top 4 seed in the East, but is going to be a tough out in the first round. And the Warriors cannot be in a position to grade their victories without maybe their second best player in Draymond Green. They have to pack up W's. And for a team that had been 2-7 in games that Draymond had either been suspended or ejected from, for them to pick up a win, I thought was valuable and important against a team that had advantages, stylistically speaking, in terms of athleticism and use, pretty much all over the board. So that's my final takeaway from this game is it is encouraging from the standpoint that the Warriors were able to exercise some demons. They have not exercised all of them, but they exercised a demon in the sense that they won a game in which they blew a double-digit lead, which did effectively happen. But what is, I guess, discouraging is that it continues to happen. So how do the Warriors find a way to close games and close them in emphatic fashion, to run away with a basketball game that they have controlled for an entire half? That is the next step for this Warriors team, and I hope that that is what they can show against Portland, because Portland's a team that if you let them hang around, they will make it a tough game. They might even steal a game from you. But if you step on the throats of the Portland Trailblazers, like I believe the Warriors can do, that is a game that, even looking back over the last 2 months, right now, the Warriors have not had a game in which they have run away with. You look at home games like Portland, 5-point win. Home game against San Antonio, who's been terrible this year, though they did just beat the Lakers on Friday. That's a single-digit win. They have not been able to, from wire to wire, defeat an opponent in emphatic fashion really since the beginning of the season, in which they beat the Pelicans on the road by 20 points. That's the only victory that I can point to this year of the now 11 and say they kicked the opposing team's butt from buzzer to buzzer. And so that's what I hope that they can prove on Sunday in Portland. So, I mean, as far as what people are hoping for right now, I'm with you. They got to follow it up tomorrow. The Splash Brothers are still alive. We appreciate you tuning in on YouTube on the Comcast Business Text line. We appreciate our callers tonight. And we look forward to tomorrow. Mark Grandy will have the pre and post for you tomorrow evening. I'll be back on Tuesday along with Thursday and Friday's broadcast. Tuesday, Friday, and then Saturday's broadcast for next week, as that will pretty much put a bow on this edition of Warriors Wrap Up. My name is Evan Giddings, and here from Chase Center, a victory for the Warriors that was much needed, 124-120. And they take down the Brooklyn Nets. They snap a 3-game skid as the Splash Brothers combine for 61 points. Curry, 16 fourth-quarter points. Brandon Podziemski with 19, 5, and 5. In my opinion, has been the most impactful rookie for the Warriors since Draymond Green. And Steve Kerr also is able to press some buttons down the stretch. So that's what I took away from this game tonight. Hopefully they can continue it tomorrow because they have to do it. They have to get it done. And I think they need to do it in emphatic fashion against a Portland team that has been reeling for the majority of this season. A big thank you to Sterling Bennett, our network coordinator back there in our 95.7 The Game studios. A big thank you to John Lukin, who was helping cut all the highlights that you've heard throughout the broadcast. Big thank you, of course, to R.C. Davis beforehand. Big thank you to Tim Roy, Tom Tolbert, who are on the call tonight for the Golden State Warriors. You will hear Tim Roy tomorrow against the Portland Trail Blazers for your play-by-play action. That game is a 6 o'clock tip, so Warriors Live will begin at 5 o'clock right here on 95.7 The Game. Also, make sure to tune in tomorrow morning. 11 a.m. is going to be the Red and Gold pregame, the kickoff show. Myself, alongside Lorenzo Neal, will have your pregame for the San Francisco 49ers, who are hosting the Arizona Cardinals at 1 o'clock, hoping to effectively wrap up the NFC West division and punch their ticket. Well, it's already been punched to the playoffs, but wrap up the division for a second straight season. So make sure to look out for that. And then you got overtime with Sterling Bennett along with Mark Grandy for all of your 49ers coverage before the Warriors play the Portland Trail Blazers at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock pregame. We appreciate you tuning into this edition of Warriors Wrap-Up after the Warriors get a much-needed win against the Brooklyn Nets. Hopefully they can get another one tomorrow. Big thank you. My name is Evan Giddings saying so long, where one last time the Warriors grab a victory 124-120. We appreciate you tuning in to Warriors Wrap-Up presented by Xfinity, and we'll talk to you next time.
Oh, this cold.
Honey?
Honey?
Honey, you need DayQuil Severe Honey.
DayQuil Severe Honey gives you powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a honeylicious taste.